welcome everybody to Illuminate, Navigate, Radiate, a journey of emotional resilience. We're back today with another topic discussion. I'm your host, Brandon. Got Michael joining me again today. How you doing, Michael?
Doing well, Brandon. Thanks for having me on again. I'm excited
Oh,
to get into it.
oh yeah, man. It's always good seeing you and having these conversations with you. These little discussions, and so that we're bringing the topic of a growth mindset, and just kind of diving into what that means, what that may look like, how we may struggle with that either in different points of our life or just with different ideas in our life, because growth mindset is something that can come and go, or you can have it for some things and not others. But it is really something that can benefit your life and continue that growth throughout your life. When you're constantly thinking that way and you're thinking of growing and that you can get better and you can learn new things as you go, that's something it's a really important concept to keep. So kind of jumping into that growth mindset idea and discussion, what does that mean to you, Michael? What does a growth mindset mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest thing really, as the two words suggest, growing. And, we say mindset because everything starts, with our thoughts. So, if we don't have the right thoughts in our head, we really can't grow as a person. So being able to kind of transition, how you think to how you need to think in order to, start to grow. That's kind of where I see growth mindset and kind of ever evolving. You're always trying to find a way to do better, but also the same token, getting more comfortable with yourself. And I think that's kind of, where I started.
Yeah, and I like that you use the word evolving, because that's what we're always trying to do. We don't ever want to just stay in that same place of contentment, or just being okay with where we're at in every aspect. It's always good to be wanting to grow and to learn new things, and always say, okay, well, I'm doing all right in this, but how can I do better? Or I'm really struggling in this, how can I get better? And so when you look at those different points or different things in your life where you're concentrating on that and you're thinking about that, that's where you can have that growth. And I know for me, there's definitely different areas of my life where I'm better at it,
Mm-hmm.
and where I struggle at it. I remember just in school, I always thought, well, I'm not good at anything science, right? It wasn't about
Mm,
how hard I worked. It was just that fixed mindset of, well, I suck at this. I'm always going to suck at this. So I'm not even going to really apply myself or try. But soccer growing up was something I was always like, oh, I can get better at this. I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to go, kick around the ball in the backyard or whatever. And when I look back, I really see those two areas. I failed almost all my classes while I was in college. Even down at AB, but
mm.
I did well, on the training pitch and on the field, because I was willing to put in that work. What's your biggest struggle with a growth mindset? Like, what area of your life do you struggle with keeping that growth mindset type of
Yeah.
type of thought?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good question. I know that probably going back maybe 10 years ago, right out of college, my early 20s, going into my late 20s, I just kind of got stuck in the same thought process. Like, I'm really not worth that much money for some reason. So every job I get, I would be making the same amount of money no matter what I tried to do. I couldn't ever get over the fact that, like, I'm better than, $10 an hour working at Whole Foods, or $12 an hour working on the summers at a golf course. Like, I have so much more to offer, but I don't think I do. So I just never did. And for 8 or 9 years, I was making barely enough money to get by. So for me, that was probably my biggest struggle, trying to overcome my own self worth, which, was pretty important, because without that, you kind of don't have the hope or the motivation to even do anything really. And so that's where I struggle the most, trying to get over that.
Yeah, growth mindset and worth. With just why you were saying that, and I'm thinking about my early 20s, addicted to heroin, and not doing a whole lot with my life, and that's what kind of kept me in that mindset. Is I had no growth mindset of that I was worth more than the life I was living. I wasn't worth more than living in a basement, not taking care of myself, not having anything going for me, and just getting high all the time, and not trying to progress my life. And so I never thought like, oh, this is going to get better. I rarely thought that. At times, maybe like that would come briefly and I'd get better for a little bit, but then I'd just be back to where I was, because that's what I believed my life was. I didn't have that growth mindset of, oh, I can do better. I can get out of this. I can work at this and not, get high or drunk every single day or every single second that I'm alive. And so I feel you on that worth thing, and that's probably a big part of it too. You know, as we're going through life, is being able to have that growth and say, okay, I'm worth more at this point, or I can bring more to the table at this point. So I got to believe in myself to then step out and do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's not, it's not easy to do, of course, but at the same time, for me, it was difficult as I progressed through that because I just wasn't getting out of that spiral. And it really happened as well when I got out of my most serious relationship, which, when I was at college, I had someone who I, for sure at that point thought in life that was going to be who I married. When that didn't work out, I kind of got stuck in like, I'm not ready to talk to women. I don't think that this is going to be something that I'm ever going to do for a long time. And I got by talking to myself, my internal thought process is letting me know I'm not going to do any better. If you tell yourself you're not, you're definitely not. And so that's kind of where I got stuck, and it just wasn't really in the growth mentality. I didn't have that kind of approach at life. And so I just spiraled around, living with my parents until way older than I should have, barely, paying any bills to them, kind of mooching off of their success in life and what they've accomplished, but not me. I'm just 25, 26, chilling, not maybe as serious as, doing stuff that could hurt myself in terms of physical life. But at the same time, I know I was just not going anywhere quick, and, trying to find how to grow was my biggest challenge.
Just I relate to that so much, man. With the kind of living off my parents' success at that time, and not doing a whole lot with my life, and I was really stuck in that fixed mindset of just like, I'm worthless. I'm not gonna do very well in life. I'm not gonna grow. I'm not gonna have a whole lot. I'm not gonna be successful like I've seen other people around me. And that's just because of either the choices I was making, or the work that I had. And so I was so fixated on. I was convinced when I was in my early 20s I'd be dead or in jail, prison for a long time by the time I was 25, and I was okay with that, which is scary. But I was okay with just accepting the fact, like, this is what my life is, and so I'm okay with that. And so I stopped trying. I stopped trying to grow. I stopped trying to take those even baby steps out of the situation that what I was in, and I was never going to take that risk of going to rehab, or trying to make my life better, or trying to find different solutions. I just kept doing the same thing over and over and over, and like, I was okay with that. And so when we get stuck in those fixed mindsets about ourselves or about life, we really just hit this like plateau where we level out, or we even start dropping down because we're done trying. We're done trying to get better at stuff. We're done trying to make ourselves better, or to perfect something, or to grow in something. And we're just like, oh, okay, well, I'm pretty decent at this right now, so this is where I'm going to stay.
Yeah, I think it's what you're speaking on specifically too for me is just that kind of contentment with it being okay because that's my life now. Might not have been my life even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but I see it being my life now, the next year, the year after that, the year after that. And that's where the scary part of it comes in because you don't really care. You don't really have the motivation or any type of hope even. You might be making it day to day. You're okay. You're living your life. You go to work, whatever the case is, you show face around family. But, if you're not growing internally, if you don't have that type of approach where you want to get better, you want to do more, you want to find a way to achieve something you haven't done, or just get off the couch and go do something you haven't done in a while, sometimes it just takes that type of approach to start to really learn, okay, what do I need to think about? How do I need to talk to myself? What types of things do I need to maybe even surround myself with so that eventually I can start to get out of this feeling of everything's okay because it's okay. That plateau that you mentioned is so real, and some people don't realize they're on it. Like, I didn't even realize it for probably 4 years before I was like, I'm not going anywhere. My parents are like, when are you moving out? You're right. I'm like 26. What am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, where am I going? Don't have a job that can pay rent. Don't have anybody really in my life outside of a few friends. So for me, I was just stuck, in perfect word. I was fixated on just that being my life and no foreseeable future, no plan moving forward to see if there's any idea. Okay, do I see a bigger picture? No, it's just every day in front of me. And that's where I think the struggle is for most people, definitely where I was at. And it took a long time before I came out of that and found the things that helped me overcome and start to change the way I thought, because it's really changing how you think about life in order to change how you approach life. And that's really the big switch that is hard to make.
Yeah, no, I like that plateau, that contentment. I remember early in recovery, I was so excited about life, like because my whole mindset, like you just said, my whole mindset about life changed. You know, in that moment, it was crazy how it just like hit me and it kind of took over my mindset, what I was doing. And so I was so excited. And I remember early on in that, like one of my biggest fears was becoming content, because I saw what my life was like when I wasn't growing, and it was miserable. It was dark. It sucked. And that became one of my biggest fears is I don't want to get to this place where I no longer seek growth. And I would say right around COVID, right, being stuck in the house for so long, I started off trying to, with the job I was doing, I was trying to find different ways to do it, going into schools or coaching. I was coaching by, setting up these little like challenges, and I'd send it out to my teams and they'd have to film themselves doing it. And so I kept challenging myself even in that environment. But as that year went on, it got really, really difficult. And that's really where I see that contentment again started in my life, to the point where, just this past winter, it got really bad and it put me back into a dark place. And so getting excited about that changed my mindset again of I have to seek constant growth in order to be happy. Because it's really easy. Like you said, it's really easy for us to just be okay, 9 to 5, come home, hang out with the family, go to bed. Get up, do the same thing. Get up, do the same thing. Because maybe we are paying the bills. Maybe life is a little bit easy. Maybe things are going well. But we only get this opportunity once. Why do we just stop our growth at that point where we think we made it, when in reality we can always and always be going up and up and up? So that's a really, I think, crazy thing that we stop ourselves once we get to a point where we think like, okay, things are good. I can sit back and relax now. We hit that mental block, and I feel like that for me, it's detrimental. It starts me going backwards instead of actually staying stable for a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. I know that it's almost like the way our brains are wired in a way. We just seem to get to a point where we can struggle and grow for a while. And then once we get to, like you said, that kind of level we're happy with, or we feel like we're doing the best we have in our life, maybe. And I was at that point, a couple years ago with the new job I had. Things were great. I was making consistent money, able to purchase a vehicle. But then there was like a 3-month period that I kind of just was stuck again. I was like, wow, I'm feeling the same as I was, before I had a family, before I had everything going on. And I was kind of trying to figure out what happened. And, when it came down to it, I just stopped my approach at life the way it had been. I was trying to always get better. I was literally doing everything I could, even at my current job, where I was networking with as many people so I could understand how they got to, their positions. And then once I hit that kind of plateau, I was just going to work. The bills were paid, sure, but, I wasn't really maybe 100% for family. I was just kind of there. I started playing video games more. I wasn't really paying attention to, maybe the needs of family, especially significant other. It's easy to neglect them when you don't really care as much about what's going on, other than, hey, the bills are paid, leave me alone. Mm-hmm. And that's, easy to fall into. And that's where I had to refine kind of what do I like and what can I do? And so we started watching movies together. We started to go back out and, once a month we go out to eat. So really try to find something to reconnect and kind of relive the moments that we fell in love, because that's, everything. That's really where the energy comes from. We fell in love, we got excited, and then plateau happens. It doesn't have to stay that way. Let's do something about it, because every day we wake up, every breath that we have a choice. And making that choice is, I think, the key. And not easy to do, but once you start to see it like that, you can grow. And, that starts in your mind.
Yeah, and I think you just walked through the process of that kind of, right? The first thing that we have to do in order to start that growth is identify that fixed thought. Whatever, we're having that thought where it's just like, okay, we're okay with this, or I'm not good at this, so I'm not going to try, or I'm not going to get that job, so I'm not going to apply for it, or I'm not going to ask for that raise, or I'm not going to go maybe ask that person out, or I'm not going to try to reconnect or build this friendship, because what's the point? right? And so, that's that first part of it is whatever you have that thought about, say that, tell yourself like, oh, I'm having this thought. And then you got to change it. And that's where you start saying, well, I can at least apply for this job. Maybe I'm not going to get it, but maybe I get as far as for the first interview. So I get that little bit of practice. I get a little bit better at it, or I figure out, okay, well, I filled out my, or I made my resume wrong, or I didn't sell myself well enough on it. So now I can go back and reconstruct it. But once we identify those fixed thoughts, then we can start growing in them. And I know, like for me, that's kind of where I was at, just recently was I mean, like my whole life was a fixed thought at that point. My relationship, my lifestyle, my mindset was just like, well, I made it. I'm 9 years clean, or almost 9 years clean, and I have a family, I have a job, I have this, so I'm good. I don't need anything else. And I just fell backwards, like hard. Fell backwards hard.
Dang.
And so that's where I had to see that again, man, and say like, no, I need that growth. I want to have that growth. It feels so good when we have that growth all the time in our life, and we're looking at that like, well, I can get better at this, or I'm gonna go try something new, or I'm gonna take this chance, even though probably not gonna work out, but at least I can look back and say, I took that chance, and that's been such a huge part of it. Even like, learning this stuff with you, reconnecting with you, it was that like I had that fixed mindset. Well, I'm not going to do this or follow through with it. And then it's like, no, let's just do it. Let's just jump into it. Let's go. Let's try something new. Let's put different ideas out there, have different discussions, look at different stories and qualities that people bring to the table, because that's what's exciting. And we're constantly doing that stuff, and we're constantly growing and supporting each other. Then it makes life a little bit more worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, life is worth living and it's worth fighting for. And sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone to remember that is hard. It's not easy to, want to do something that maybe you're not familiar with, or you, like you said, you would be good at this job deep down, but you're afraid to apply, or you don't want the rejection. Maybe asking a girl out, you guys have, there's chemistry there. Maybe you've seen it or you've interacted, but you just don't want to take that shot. That's where, you get held up. That's where life hits you and you're not sure where you're going to go. But if you have that mentality where, hey, you know what? I can at least try. The worst thing that happens is they say, no, I don't get the job, but I got experience. I learned from it. I can't score soccer for you. Can't score if we don't shoot. And that goes true in life in general. So if we don't take any shots, we can't score, whether it's a goal, whether it's a girl, whether it's the next job, or whether it's even growing yourself and getting better with how you treat yourself and how you talk to yourself. For me, I think the biggest moment for me was learning how I changed the way I thought. It really allowed me to change the way I live my life. And, it doesn't start easy. You have to go one step at a time. And for me, it was just to try to focus on doing one thing a little bit better. In my case, I wanted to be a better husband, or, fiance to my spouse, and be better for the kids. So I just focused on that for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that got exciting. And then that kind of reinvigorated my life, and I wanted to do more. And then that's kind of just where I started to get back into golfing and, reaching out to friends I haven't reached out to in a while. Like you said, what's the point? And, they're a million miles away. I'm not going to see them anytime soon. Why would I care? But it's crazy the excitement I got knowing that I can reconnect with them and, hey, what's their story? What have they been doing for the past 9 years, 10 years? You specifically as well. You know what I mean? That was the craziest thing to hear when everything was going well for you. And then knowing that, hey, here we are 9 years later, not a lick of negativity in terms of what you were going through now. It's all just growth and trying to get better. So for me, it inspires me knowing, hey, we have a choice every day. We may not feel like we do, but we definitely do. Focus on that, and we can do it. Anybody can.
Yeah, and having that growth mindset about one thing, that can, like you said, it starts to take off. You get excited about other things. Once you start applying that growth mindset to one area of your life, then it can be contagious to other areas of your life, right? It can give you different perspectives on life, or find growth in different areas. Like changing that mindset, especially from like, oh, I'm worthless, I'm just gonna get high all the time, to being like, oh, I can stay clean, I can get through this, I can, life is more than, chasing a bag every single day and being so obsessed with that. And life can be more and more exciting. And that's where that growth mindset has given me a lot in life. Even, starting school again. I started school again last January. Before I was just like, well, I'm not good at school. I can't sit there and study. I can't sit there and write a paper. I can't sit there and do this work. And I've gotten pretty much all A's in the terms that I have done since last January. And it's just given me confidence to be like, oh, I actually can do something when I try. It's so easy to tell myself, well, you can't do it. And then it's like, well, did you really try? Right? Did you really put in that effort to honestly look at yourself and say, yeah, that's going to be tough. Maybe you can't accomplish that. Me saying like, oh, I'm going to go play professional baseball. Yeah, maybe not. But at least I with soccer, I tried. I tried to go as far as I can. I put in the work, the hours, the time, whatever it may be. And so when you can honestly look at yourself and say, well, at least I gave it a go, that feels good as well. That makes that failure, a little bit more, you can deal with it a little bit better when you can say, oh, I gave it an honest go. So, now it's time to move on to the next thing and find out where else I can grow in my life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's kind of sometimes you have to, fail before you can grow. And I think people maybe don't always realize that you think you can I'm going to just do this, steps are lined out, I'm going to follow it and it's going to work. Possibly. But there's going to be days that don't work according to plan because life doesn't always go according to plan. If you find the good balance, and I think a famous quote from a book I read recently was, if you're going to fail forward, fall forward. So if you're going to fail, learn from it. Know that you're not going to make that type of mistake again, even if it's the next thing is unrelated to the previous thing, whether it's a job interview, you go for it. Okay, you know what? I said some stuff that didn't make sense. I wasn't prepared. That could take you into the next relationship. You're sitting down with, a girl at the table and, hey, I am not going to make a fool of myself this time. I'm going to actually engage in conversation. So just changing that approach from what your previous experiences were means all the difference because that's that growth that's going to allow you to evolve. As a person, we change over the course of our lives, whether we change forward, backwards, side or left, right, down, or it's kind of up to us. But having a plan in place, knowing I want to go up, focusing on what I can do to help me go up, can start to just, instead of the life that you're living, can kind of change the trajectory altogether. And before you know it, you're finding fun in things you never realized, or you're accomplishing things you never thought possible. For example, you probably could make it at professional baseball. If you went and put the hours in like we did soccer, we could make it. It might take us several years, but we could probably play. But it's just one of those where we'd have to really put in effort, and that type of mentality would have to be bulletproof, resilience, no type of give up mentality, long hours. And that's possible with anything we do. Sometimes we think the hardest things require the hardest attention, but sometimes if we just put that same effort towards stuff that we do in our daily lives, it would completely change how our perception and how our outlook on life is. I know if I knew I had to train extremely hard to play professional soccer, or for example, I was really good at video games, imagine all the time I spent playing video games and getting good at FIFA. Could have easily became a much better person, father, lover, even just in general for, my friends, hanging out with people that I can engage with and not just, hey, yo, you saw that, yeah, you played the game last night, cool. That's all the conversations were. Let's grow from that and actually try to do better. And that's, for me, was difficult. And as I continued to progress and think about how I wanted to do more with life, it kind of helped navigate that path for me where I could really see through the woodwork and the trees and determine, okay, I know where I'm going now. I know what I need to do every day to keep this growth active and the people I need to surround myself to help with this, because sometimes the company that you keep does prevent you from growing, and it's hard to see that sometimes too.
Yeah, and like you were saying, with seeing that path, that navigating, that's where all those distractions come in. That's where all those things stop you from having that growth mindset. Like, oh, I want to apply myself and I want to get better at this, but 6 hours of video games sound way more fun right now than working hard at this. Or, I gotta study for this, or I gotta write this paper, but a nap, just sounds sweet right now. So I'm gonna take that nap. Or like you just said, we have influences around us, people as well that are like, oh, you don't need to do that right now. Let's go hang out. Or, you don't need to put the time into that. Let's go do this. And that's where we want those good people around us too, to say, yeah, like get that done, then we can go hang out, or put in the effort with that, or even I'll help you put in that effort with that. That growth mindset around us as well in all approaches to our life is important to have it, because I know at times, like I've had a growth mindset about one area, like, soccer, for example, college, that first year. Okay, I'm going to grow in soccer. I'm going to try to get better, but I suck at this school stuff. So I'm not even going to go to class, because what's the point? And now I can apply that to different areas of my life. Like, okay, I got a job. Okay, I got to take care of class. Oh, okay, I'm trying this new project. Oh, okay, I got my wife, my kids. Oh, and like I can always be better. Each day I can always be a little bit better than I was yesterday. And it's not always going to be like you said, life happens, right? We have bad days. We have days where, we kind of just like get slapped in the face, and it takes a little bit more resilience or a little bit more grit to keep going. But that's okay too. As long as you can say, well, I can bounce back from this, then you're going to bounce back, right? As long as you can say, okay, I got to put in an extra step today, or I got to take 10 steps today, whereas yesterday I only had to take 2, like that's all right as well. It's just about finding that process and then believing in it, like that's the biggest thing is believing in that process of yet, like you're not there yet, but you're going to be there. And that's how we get there, is we leave that open end for our growth, instead of saying, well, I just suck at this, or I'm already really good at this. So even we stop our growth with things that we could be even better at, and it's important to kind of just keep that in mind. Whereas if you want to keep pushing it, push it.
Absolutely. There's no shame in trying to get better. It's something you're already really good at. I think the all-time greats in all the sports across the planet of all of history would attest to that. Kobe Bryant, RIP, that legend. He never had a moment. He probably had the most chaotic in terms of straight ethic, grit, no matter what. No sleep, play a game, no matter what, he was going to get better, and it showed. Same with players all across all the sports. Roger Federer is one of my favorites. He just always got better, and he got better as he got older. And that's not easy to do, especially in a game like tennis where you're running around. Stamina is a big thing. Even some of the greats that I think about, Messi and Ronaldo, for all the soccer fans out there, as good as they were young and they were great, as they got older and wiser, they were still scoring just as many goals or using less energy and performing even better. So that's where, when we are good, we can get better. Let's not be okay with just good. And if we're bad at something, like you said, I'm just not really that good yet. If I can think of it like that, and I can train my brain to think of life like that in general, I'm not the best dad yet, but guess what? I'm working on it. And every day that I work on it, I'll get better. And if I want to get better, and I tell myself I'm going to get better, I will get better. That's how our mind works. It's built to manifest. And if we believe in that manifestation, like you said, if we believe in the path, the plan that we're taking, we will go. And that's what we don't realize. We're believing the negative. As soon as we tell ourselves we can't do it, we are instantly believing that, justifying that, and whatever happens, we're okay with. So that's where the change is so crucial. Without that type of approach, you kind of just don't have a plan. And without a plan, classic saying, unfortunately, fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And unfortunately, it's true with your growth and any type of mindset moving forward. That strong, positive mental attitude of resilience is really how I've developed myself, because I'm in a position, it's sales. Sales, you're going to get told no 8 or 9 times out of 10. Mm-hmm. How do you respond to the people that don't want to buy what you're offering? Maybe they don't need it. They're not mad at you for selling them a product. They're not mad at you for offering them a service. They don't need the service. Move on. It's okay. But if you get mad, oh my gosh, she must hate me. I must have said something so mad. This girl's going to report me because I asked her to buy this product. No. And the sooner you get that kind of shrug it off mentality for stuff that you feel like should affect you negatively, not a big deal. Move on to the next. That's helped me so much, because it's not easy to overcome stuff that feels personal, but if you don't make it personal, it doesn't have to be personal. And that just circles right back to knowing you're in control of how your mind works. And that's the biggest thing for my growth that I've experienced up to this point.
Yeah, and like that whole idea of taking those failures personally, right? And just like believing like, oh, I'm a failure. Instead of saying, like, oh, okay, I failed this time, I can do better next time. Or I failed at this and I tried and I tried and I tried. Maybe this one isn't for me, so I'm gonna go put my attention to something else now. But just accepting that those things happen. We're all gonna fail at different things, and that's okay, right? We're not gonna succeed in every little thing that we do. Otherwise, life would be pretty easy and probably not as exciting if if we were always gonna succeed. Failure is what makes those things, so great. Failure is what makes those little things mean even more. I mean, looking at the large part of my early adult years, I would have said, oh, I failed. I failed at life. I failed at everything. I'm sitting here by myself, alone, doing drugs, and I have nothing to show for it, and that makes me a failure. And I don't know if I didn't go through that, if I'd feel like I do about my life today. Like I can be happy just to have food in my refrigerator, or just to have a bed to sleep in, or somebody that, I have a connection with in my wife, just because I didn't always have those things. And so I don't need anything more at times. I'm pretty happy with what I have, like material wise or simple things, because I didn't have those things before. So when we fail, we realize that we have a lot of things around us, and we can see those things and appreciate those things, and really put the effort into, like you were saying earlier, of making those relationships better, whether that's spending a little bit more time or keeping that, that early love alive by going and doing stuff just together, and having those moments. And that's how we continue that growth. We constantly put ourselves in those moments and say, I'm going to make this better. I'm going to make this relationship better. I'm going to make my life better. I'm going to make my mindset more positive and excitable and challenging. And I'm going to constantly grow. And so find that growth mindset in yourself, find that idea that you already have a growth mindset about. There's probably something in life that you always have a growth mindset about at some point. And find that, figure out how that works for you, and then start applying it to other things. Maybe you have to write it all down and say, okay, well, I suck at school. Okay, well, I suck at school right now. Okay, well, I'm not putting the time in, so I'm not very good. Okay, well, I can start putting the time in and get better, and then just keep evolving those thoughts. It might be a little bit at a time, but evolving those thoughts is what's going to get us to where we want to be in that mindset idea.
Absolutely. And I think what you're, speaking on specifically for me, as well as what resonates, is that's, developing a plan, but also training your brain to respond to things in a way that makes sense, that results in positivity. Anything could happen in life, whether you lose a loved one or something drastic happens in your life that was unexpected. Knowing that you have that resilience built in, you've trained your brain to respond. Yeah, you're going to feel it more, and you're supposed to go through those things. But what it's not supposed to do is lock you back down for 6 months in your basement, don't want to talk to anybody. That's where, life got you. And having that plan, knowing that your brain is set up in a way where it's going to happen. Things are going to happen, but, the world could blow up tomorrow, and I'm still going to be just fine because I know where I'm going. So as long as there's water for me to drink and food for me to eat and my family to, keep alive, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to make sure everything I do is for them. Of course, not sacrificing myself, but ultimately the goal is to have, kids grow up to be successful. If they go through things, cool, but have the tools and the resources around them so that if they do go through something, they don't have to go through it alone. Maybe that's the biggest thing that you and I had experienced on our end, because our parents, don't know yours specifically, but I know my parents, happily married, raised Catholic, high school sweethearts, really nothing went wrong in their life, and I didn't have anything wrong with my childhood. Yet here I was at 23, 24, getting high every day, drinking, hanging out with friends all day long, not trying to build any type of connections, just working 9 to 5, barely making any money, just kind of being okay. And that's where we all can fall into. But knowing there's a bigger picture down the road, and it's different for everybody. If you don't want a family, that's okay. Maybe you just want to be the best person you want to be at what you do. Focus on that. By attacking that, having your plan set specific to you is going to make the most sense for you. So a lot of stuff won't make sense if, I'm talking about my daughters and you don't have a daughter or son. That's cool, but guess what? The approach is the same. I want to get better. I want to do better. I want to be better. That's universal. The more we focus on being better and having that plan, training our brain to focus on the positives, really being able to deal with any situation with that outlook, that's helped me a lot as I've lost some family members, fairly recently. Some stuff in my life didn't go as planned. I'm here and I'm happy. You know what I mean? And that's the biggest thing. We're always going to have those days, but we can always choose to have better days after that. And I say 99% of the time, after a bad day, a good one always follows, as long as you have that approach and that growth mindset.
Yeah, and I really like what you were saying there about that process being the same, right? And I think that's a really good area to kind of start ending the conversation on is, figure out what success and happiness is to you. For Michael and me, it's probably a little bit different. I know we probably have some similarities in there with family and things like that, but maybe your happiness and success is, just traveling alone by yourself all over the world. Maybe it is, being the highest paid something or being the best at something. And that's okay too. Whatever that success and happiness to you, as long as it's not like, putting other people down and hurting other people, go for it. Find that growth mindset and apply everything you can to it to be successful. Because that's the only way we're going to get to those places we want to be, is when we actually put in the effort, have that growth mindset and realize, okay, I'm not there yet, but I'm going to get there. And that's just that really important aspect of a growth mindset to keep and to focus on. So, I mean, any last, little tidbits or little information you want to throw out before we wrap up, say, Michael?
Really, the biggest thing is, get to that point where you're not right, acknowledge that you're not there. That's the first step. And from there, figure out what you want to do. It's not easy, but figure it out. It could be anything. Like we just talked about, it could be family, it could be traveling, it could be, the most random thing, like, you just want to be the best at what you do or whatever that is, cool. But focusing on that and not allowing anything to distract you, that's going to get you there, not just quicker, but more successfully. And I think that once you get to that point where you're extremely happy and everything that you're trying to accomplish is going well because you're continuing that focus, then you can radiate those feelings outwards, because it's very easy to be happy about stuff and share that happiness when you're truly happy with what you're doing. And I can see you're a lot happier in life, especially than you were even at AB. As fun as the times we had, I can tell that you're actually happy in life now compared to then. That was just a ride. That was the thrill. Yeah. Now for me as well, I'm excited about where I'm going. If I could have, one person more smile a day just because I smiled at them, awesome. That sometimes smile is all they needed. Just a conversation with a stranger that you're walking past. Hey, have a nice day. I like your hat. It's cool. Have a good rest of your day. Maybe you have a bus ride, but for me, it's everything interaction. Once you get to that happy place, don't hog it. Let other people know. Share that love, share that positivity, because other people will know it's possible, and they may be struggling more than you realize, and that one interaction could change their entire life. So that's for me. The last thing, don't be afraid to share the happiness when you are happy.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good piece of advice right there, because once we can share that, it just grows and grows and grows, and we probably need that a little bit in this world right now. So thanks everybody for joining Michael and I again today for another discussion. Looking forward to sitting down and chatting again next week. So everybody have a great rest of your day. If you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, throw some comments of some different discussions you would like to see us have, different ideas that you want to hear us go back and forth about, anything like that, just let us know. But we appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Brandon. Appreciate you, man.